He was nervous. She was even more so. He was wondering how he would ask her out. She was wondering if she could still cook. They'd been set up by a mutual friend, or as Agnes thought of her, that busybody Gertrude. Now, Gertrude had done this with the best of intentions. Of course, she just wanted to see the two of them happy. And given their ages, well, she didn't have much time to waste. Agnes and Arthur had met 3 days ago while volunteering at the local soup kitchen. Arthur, a widower of 5 years, had seen his family tree start to wither away since his wife passed. All of his children were grown and out of the house, and he found himself surrounded by silence and solitude. "I'm sure you'll be great," Arthur had said, completely missing the hint. "How about Friday night?" He'd reached out to shake her hand, but she'd pulled away quickly, as if afraid he might touch her. "Oh, sure," she'd stammered. "Yeah, Friday." "Yeah, that should be fine." She'd turned and walked quickly away from him, leaving Arthur standing there dumbfounded. "It reminds me of when I was a girl and we used to have picnics," she lied, giving him a watery smile. Would you like some tea?" he asked. "Sure," she replied, thinking to herself, "as long as he doesn't expect me to make it." But of course, Arthur wasn't thinking that, and he led her over to the counter where a coffee maker sat next to a kettle. While the kettle whistled merrily, Agnes couldn't help but feel nostalgic. She hadn't been in a man's house alone like this since her first date with her husband over 50 years ago. And just like then, she had no idea how to act. She followed him into the kitchen and stopped dead in her tracks. There was no way. This was not how kitchens were supposed to look.
"Oh, just one," Agnes replied, surprised at her own voice.
After pouring her tea, Agnes decided to put on her game face. After dinner, they moved to the living room. And as their lips met, Agnes knew that she had made the right decision by agreeing to see Arthur. What a wonderful second chance at love they both had found, she thought. Arthur got up the courage to take Agnes's hand. She didn't pull away this time. In fact, she squeezed his hand gently. She was going to have a lovely time tonight, no matter what. She told Arthur about her book club and her bridge games, while he regaled her with stories about his children and grandchildren. The tea soon grew cold, but neither of them seemed to notice. In fact, it looked like a museum. "It's my wife's recipe," he said. "She used to make it all the time." Agnes nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. Just like the rest of the house, the lasagna was old-fashioned, hearty, and full of love. Agnes ate until she could eat no more. He blinked sleepily and turned to his side of the bed, but it was empty. Groaning, he got up and went to the kitchen, where he found a pot of coffee brewing on the stove. There on a chair sat a note. It read, "Had to run to the store. Be back in an hour. Don't turn the oven on. Love, Agnes." Arthur chuckled. He didn't know much about cooking, but he knew enough to be careful around the gas stove. Pouring himself a cup of coffee, he headed back to his bedroom, where he pulled open the closet. Inside, hanging neatly on hangers, were a collection of colorful dresses and blouses. On the shelves were rows of neatly folded sweaters and cardigans. Who was this woman and how had he been so blind? Of course she couldn't cook. She was a city girl. How could he have been so stupid? But maybe, just maybe, she could teach him a thing or two about looking after himself. And as he sipped his coffee, he smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. Display cases filled with old, dusty dishes lined the walls. On top of the counters sat ceramic canisters filled with who knew what, along with an array of utensils that seemed completely out of place. She remembered these from her own grandmother's kitchen. But that was the 1940s. Why would anyone need this stuff now? Way back in 1968? She'd never been able to cook, and she'd relied on her husband for all those years. Why did she sound so frightened? Composing himself quickly, he went to the door and opened it to find Agnes standing there with a bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers. "For you," she said, holding out the flowers. "They're lovely. Thank you," Arthur said, taking them. "But what can I get you?" "You said you didn't need anything, right?" No. I just thought I'd bring these," she said. Come in," Arthur said awkwardly, and then he stepped aside to let her in. Did she not like him? A million questions had raced through Arthur's mind, but instead of spending the next few days wondering, he'd thrown himself into preparation. He'd taken out the china, the good silverware, and even the tablecloth that he and his wife had picked out together 30 years ago. Every day this week, he'd cooked elaborate meals just for himself, trying out new recipes and getting comfortable in the kitchen again. And yet, even after all that practice, his hands trembled as he took the lasagna out of the oven. But after he passed, no one had asked her to make food for anyone. Her entire social life consisted of her book club and her bridge games. As Arthur showed her into the dining room, Agnes noticed the nice tablecloth on the table. Then she saw the mismatched plates and silverware. They weren't mismatched necessarily, she thought, just very old and worn. Oh dear, she thought. Will this woman feed me off of these things? Arthur must have read the look on her face, because he cleared his throat. I hope you don't mind, he began, but she cut him off. Still, something about Arthur had sparked her interest. And so she said yes to Gertrude's matchmaking. The loneliness had gotten to him. It felt like it was eating away at him from the inside out. Over their sandwiches and salads, Arthur had tried to find a way to ask Agnes out. Instead, he sounded desperate. But each time he got close, she would either clear her throat loudly or take an enormous bite of her cucumber sandwich, leaving Arthur feeling awkward and dejected. Finally, as they were leaving the park, he worked up enough courage to ask her out. Gertrude had insisted that he needed someone to love him when he was old and gray, and with a gentle nudge, she'd set him up with Agnes. And then there was Agnes, whose last real date was before she got married. Now, here they were, having lunch together in the park, trying to act casually, while both of them knew exactly what Gertrude was trying to do. Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? At my place? He'd asked, hoping he sounded nonchalant. Oh, I don't know, Agnes had replied, stalling for time. I haven't cooked for anybody in years. That's all right. Why did she agree so easily? His doorbell rang and Arthur nearly jumped out of his skin. As Agnes stepped over the threshold, she realized that she was in for a night she wouldn't forget. It's lovely, really. She looked over at Arthur, who seemed to be studying the floor. So, would you like some sugar? Arthur asked, breaking the silence. When it was time for dinner, Arthur led her into the dining room and served her lasagna. You're a wonderful cook, Arthur, she said. Thank you, he replied, blushing. Can I kiss you? He asked. Yes, she whispered. The next morning, Arthur awoke to the smell of sizzling bacon.